learning that Supreme Court has begun pronouncing its judgment on the green cracker row. Do remember, we've seen clearly a divide on green crackers, a mix of anticipation, anxiety that's gripped Delhi. Supreme Court hinting that it may allow the sale of green crackers in the city just a week before Diwali, and that pronunciation has begun of the judgment. We're learning that the CGI said we've considered the submissions by Solicitor General and we have to take a balanced approach. Those are the first few comments that are coming in from CGI Gavai. The court is delivering its verdict. Many residents, remember, welcome the prospects of fireworks returning to the skies. They've called it an essential part of festive celebrations. There is another section, like I said, that's expressed concerns that weak enforcement could once again pave the way for regular, more polluting and noisier crackers, and it'll turn the city into a gas chamber and a boombox. Now, do remember, this also coincides very interestingly with the AQI picking up. The AQI in parts of the National Capital Region has crossed 200 and above. And that's a concern that National Capital Region residents are currently staring at. Comes this judgment by the Supreme Court. The verdict is being pronounced as we speak. The verdict essentially is around green crackers and whether they can be sold during Diwali festivities in the national capital. The CGI makes the first few observations. CGI Gavai says we have to take a balanced approach. We've considered the submissions by the Solicitor General. Now, there are green activists who are also speaking or who've broken their silence on this. The permission, if at all, is granted by the tone and tenor of the CGI. This is going to bring back the bursting of crackers within the legal ambit for Diwali, for perhaps other festivals like Gurpurab and Christmas as well. And this is going to happen after 5 long years. Green firecrackers, remember, bring that entire debate back to what it means for air pollution and how limited is really the consequence of this. They're designed to emit 20 to 30% less particulate matter than conventional ones, but the concerns still come with green crackers. And now we're learning in the latest bit of breaking news update that's just come in that the Supreme Court has allowed temporary sale of these crackers. The CGI has referred to the order of October 14, 2024, where Delhi government imposed a complete ban on firecrackers, which was expanded to entire NCR. And this is big news coming in from the Supreme Court. Speaking of how the need of the hour is a balanced approach, Supreme Court allowing temporary sale of crackers, referring to the previous order of 14th October 2024, where the Delhi government had imposed complete ban on firecrackers, which was then extended to the entire national capital region. Bursting firecrackers, though, only permitted from the 18th to the 21st. So just the few days in and around Diwali is when we're going to see this development in the national capital region. It comes with a disclaimer: bursting firecrackers only allowed from the 18th to the 21st. Do remember, a lot of people celebrating Diwali this year on the 20th, some on the 21st. So the crackers, the green crackers are only allowed in the national capital region from the 18th to the 21st. That's the latest bit of breaking news update coming in. Temporary sales of green crackers has been allowed in the national capital region. This is the latest coming in from the Supreme Court. And pretty much on expected lines, because the tone and tenor of the CGI suggested this. And like I said, there's been a lot of anticipation, a lot of anxiety around this. There's a certain section that essentially was waiting for this verdict, welcoming the prospects of fireworks returning to the skies. Others who are concerned that this is going to add to the air pollution problem that is already being faced by the citizens of the national capital region, with the AQI going up. Supreme Court allowing temporary sales of green firecrackers is what we're learning. Ananya Bhatnagar is sharing these details with us. So breaking down more details of everything that's being sent out by Ananya. The patrol team shall conduct regular checks, is what CGI Gavai said, on green crackers, on the green cracker manufacturers. The QR codes of green crackers will also be uploaded on the website. So this strictly is permission given to green crackers in the national capital region. This is not, or doesn't include, all firecrackers. This nod is coming only for green crackers. The Supreme Court making it amply clear that this permission has only been granted from 18th to the 21st October. This is temporary sale of green firecrackers that we're going to see in the national capital regions. Do remember, traders also were in favor of this. Several traders said that complete ban never works and bringing back green crackers can curb black marketing. Those are some of the reactions we heard of in the run-up to the Supreme Court judgment. I do want to go across to Shrishti Chaudhary, my colleague, who joins us with more details. Shrishti, you've been tracking the story very closely. How do you look at this? You know, there were mixed reactions in the run-up to the Supreme Court judgment. There's a small window that the Supreme Court has opened up for the residents of the national capital, allowing green crackers only from the 18th to the 21st.
Yes, Kritsveen. So, see, every year during October, the entire Northwest India, especially the national capital region, witnesses a severe deterioration in the air quality, and especially around the period of festivals, Diwali. Now, with Diwali just few days away, the air pollution levels have started to worsen. Now, over the last 24 hours, the AQI has surged to 200. So now it's hovering between poor to very poor category, and that is why the Graded Response Action Plan Stage 1 has come into effect in the national capital. Now, see, over the last few years, experts have been arguing that, you know, these firecrackers, because there is a sudden peak in the air pollution levels, especially around the festival time, because of bursting of firecrackers, which has been completely banned. Now, these green firecrackers were considered to be one of the solutions, although they do generate emissions and they do generate pollution, but slightly lesser than compared to the normal firecrackers that were used. But nonetheless, they do contribute to the air pollution levels, and experts have been warning against the disastrous impacts. This year, if you compare it with last year, the air quality, I must say, is still better. First of all, due to the meteorological factors, the temperatures are still hovering around 31 to 33 degrees Celsius. The wind is still better. So that's leading to dispersion of the pollutants.
Maybe all of those factors have been taken into consideration by the Supreme Court. CJ Gavai pronouncing this all-important verdict. Shrishti, we'll come back to you in just a few seconds. Vimlendu Jha, environmentalist, joins us on the broadcast. Mr. Jha, your first thoughts. Like we're discussing, green firecrackers are designed to emit 20 to 30% less particulate matter than conventional ones. There are a lot of other favorable factors that Shrishti was just highlighting, but the fact remains, as we speak, AQI is also currently in the poor category. So there are environmental concerns to attach to this.
I think it's very, unfortunate that despite Delhi's air being in ICU for several years, Delhi's baseline pollution is so high. And we, as a society, and also including the courts, should have actually dealt with this more firmly and looked at the right to life being more important than right to celebrate and right to burst firecrackers in that sense. Because when we say that green firecrackers pollute less, they hardly pollute, it was only around 30% less. It still is 70% polluting in that sense. And we do not have a mechanism to really check whether somebody is blasting a green firecracker or not so green firecracker in that sense. We've seen that there has been a ban all these years, and despite that, we've seen firecrackers being burst during this time. So imagine there's zero enforcement, both in terms of the quality of firecrackers, the timing of firecrackers, the amount of firecrackers, and so on and so forth. We've seen each year the air quality index actually, as per WHO's limit, goes 20 times to 30 times worse than the permissible limits. And all we've seen how hospitals are inundated with patients. So perhaps there'll be 20% less patients, logically or illogically speaking in that sense, but it is going to be extremely difficult. And, it has taken so much time for air quality campaign to demand clean air. And then it's a major setback, I would see, to Delhi's air governance, and also overall fight for good air that we've been doing for so many years.
Mr. Jha, a certain section has been of the opinion, and very vocally they've pointed out to the fact that this is not a firecracker alone problem, that a holistic approach is needed to deal with Delhi's air quality situation, which includes banning construction activities, stubble burning in the neighbouring states, so on and so forth. GRAP 1 has already been implemented. Do you think the timing here is something that could be troublesome? What are your thoughts there?
Yes, absolutely. So nobody's saying that firecracker alone is the reason why Delhi's air quality remains so pathetic and toxic through the year. As in, we have perennial factors, as we've been talking about, that transport contributes to almost 50%. Then, of course, we have construction, demolition, and roadside dust that actually pollutes. And similarly, but at the same time, there are these episodic sources that actually creates an unnecessary spike, and that these episodic sources, be it stubble burning or bursting of firecrackers. So right now, of course, graded response, but graded response is only an emergency measure. Governance cannot depend only on emergency band-aid measures. Those structural changes that needs to happen on the ground, and it's not just Diwali that we're talking about, those structural changes are not visible. We are not seeing that. And this year again, and imagine the impact that this actually has on public health, on our children, elderly, pregnant women. And we've just really ignored all those factors. And for our love for firecrackers and celebration, we've compromised with the lungs and lives of our children.
Okay, Mr. Jha, children is an interesting conversation here because a lot of parents have come out to say that already their kids are suffering from toxic air and they've urged the court to prioritize health. Now, how do you think that balance is going to be struck? So we're seeing this not come in just for firecrackers. We've spoken about the emissions that come along with it. It's just a 20-30% difference. But we're looking at a time that this one window is essentially when the air quality needs to be in check through and through. And if the situation goes out of hand now, it's going to be very difficult to contain it.
The meteorological conditions, the winter hasn't arrived, stubble burning hasn't really begun. And imagine what it will be. And post-COVID, we've seen the more and more cases of breathing challenges and pulmonological disorder and challenges that our children and our elderly are facing. And in the wake of that, when we already are, breathing spiked air in that sense, why should we actually spike it further? And that's where there's certain disappointment that I have from the Supreme Court's order that it did not prioritize children's lungs, but looked at people, their faith and their idea of celebration.
Many thanks, Mr. Jha, for sharing your thoughts on this verdict that's coming from the top court. Going across to Shrishti Chaudhary once again. Shrishti, now that we're looking at this small window being opened by the Supreme Court, from 18 to 21st, people are going to be allowed to burst green firecrackers. Tell us a little bit about the period when this ban was in place, when it was enforced, and how much of a difference did it make? So from before that to the 5-year ban that we did see in the National Capital Region.
Right, Krithveen. So see, the air pollution levels in the national capital make international headlines because this toxic smog is highly disastrous for the health of the residents here. There are long-term impacts and clear evidence shows that it's impacting children, elderly population, and there are heart as well as other impacts. Now, experts have been really arguing for it. It took a long time to ban the firecracker activity, and like the experts have been highlighting, even if they, even if the green firecrackers lead to lesser emissions, but nonetheless there are still emissions and will contribute to the worsening of air pollution levels. Every year the AQI surges even beyond 400. That is where the AQI becomes severe, leading to higher stages of graded response action plan. And the emission inventory which was conducted by the experts over the last few years shows that there are multiple causes. Bursting of firecrackers is also one of them, which leads to the first spike in the AQI around mid to late October, coinciding with the Diwali season. And secondly, there is the vehicular pollution. Around 40% of the overall pollution is contributed by the vehicle pollution here. Industrial pollution is another reason, and of course stubble burning. But over the years, experts have been really arguing that we need to take much stronger action if we are to prevent the disastrous impacts of this air quality for the residents of this entire region.
Okay, Shrishti, thank you for joining us with those details. I do want to go across to Ananya Bhatnagar to quickly break down the story coming in from the Supreme Court for us as well. Ananya, tell us all about the conditions that have been put forth by the Supreme Court in delivering this verdict.
There are absolutely strict conditions coming from the top court as far as the green crackers are concerned. The Supreme Court very clearly allowing a temporary sale and bursting of firecrackers in the national capital region. Even though the Supreme Court went on to say that there has to be a balanced approach that needs to be adopted, and this is a big order coming in from the Supreme Court almost after years of bans. Today Now, finally, that ban being temporarily being lifted, the Delhiites could actually go and burst firecrackers. And it's kind of a gift that's coming in ahead of Diwali for the Delhiites. The fixed timings that have been imposed is from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. of the Diwali days and 6 p.m. to 7 a.m. in the morning on the first day. Though that will be much more clearer as to why these timings have been clear when the details comes out. But at this particular point of time, it is in fact a big order coming in from the topmost of the country. That too, from a bench headed by the Chief Justice of India, by Justice Gavai himself, saying that this is in fact a balanced approach needs to be adopted. Festivals are something that India is very, very proud of, and that is something why a balanced approach needs to be adopted because it is not only the people's joy of bursting firecrackers, but also the industry, that operates there are people who are indulged into the work of making these green crackers, and hence, their livelihood is also to be seen, and that is why a balanced approach needs to be adopted, is what the topmost of the country has said. Importantly, no firecrackers from outside the NCR region to be allowed. If at all there would be any kind of a fake firecracker that could be seen by the Supreme Court, then they will. In fact, there has to be strict action to be taken by, the police authorities. What in fact, the Supreme Court is dedicated. It's not going on very, very clearly to say that if at all any fake firecracker is found, license of the supplier to actually be suspended itself.
Right. Ananda, thank you so much. Do hold